government has been talking about delivering or developing about 1 million units of affordable housing units by the year 2027, and this is backed by a number of initiatives. And the National Housing Corporation is one of the government entities who is tasked with ensuring that this aspiration and this dream is achieved. The managing director is Mathu. He's joining us to discuss more about what the entity is doing to help the government in the realization of this critical agenda of affordable housing. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mathu, for joining us here. I mean, for the last 70 plus years, I mean, the National Housing Corporation has been at the forefront of delivering homes and houses to Kenyans. Where do we go from here?
Thank you so much, Brian, for having me. It's important to, from the onset, indicate that National Housing Corporation is an agency of government of the Republic of Kenya. And as you rightly said, it's an old institution. We were established in 1953 as a Central Housing Board. Thereafter, around 1968, the corporation got incorporated by way of enacting Cap 117 of the laws of Kenya. And we are supposed to be the principal agency of government when it comes to implementation of government programs and policies. The most active current program of government under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda is housing, and therefore the corporation is quite relevant when it comes to implementation of this particular agenda. It is important to indicate from 1953, the corporation has had various products that have benefited Kenyans in an immense way, transformed a lot of lives, improved the socioeconomic, lives of Kenyans. For example, we have had units on rental basis. We are here in Mombasa. Changamwe is a good exemplification. If you go to Changamwe, you'll find the corporation has a vast estate of over 1,000 housing units on rental basis. We have houses across the country which are on tenant purchase scheme, a very competitive model because the private sector may not be patient enough like a government institution like National Housing Corporation. So we have a policy where you can pay 10% of your deposit, and then the balance of the payment is paid for a period between 5 years to 18 years. And this is a practice we have had for the last 70 years. It's also important to indicate that we also have very high-end kind of products. We have developed units in Kileleshwa, which we have sold on what we call outright sale. It is also important to indicate now that we are at ICOS 2024, that the corporation also has a very competitive product. We are the biggest manufacturers of extended polystyrene, which is a very good product for walls and for slabs. And we are now exporting up to including Uganda. So yes, so the corporation is at the heart of implementation of the government affordable housing agenda.
Yep. You rightly put it. I mean, we are here at the International Construction Research Conference and Exhibition, which is taking place here in Mombasa. And some of the conversations taking place here is research. How to integrate artificial intelligence in the construction industry. How to green the construction industry, being one of the largest emitters of greenhouse gases. And so as an institution, where do you fit in these two areas?
Thank you very much. That's a very relevant question, relating especially to the fact that we just launched our strategic plan for 2023-2027. We launched this on May 27th this year. Now, at the heart of the current strategic plan, the corporation intends to implement 110,000 housing units by the year 2027, which means we are doing more than 10% of what His Excellency the President intends to achieve in the next 5 years, obviously starting from last year. Now, the whole issue of sustainability and adoption of technology at NHC in offering our products in the design process is critical. For example, National Housing Corporation's project in Homa Bay, it is important for me to indicate it is the first public housing in Africa that has been green rated by World Bank through their IFC Edge certification, becoming the first public housing project in Africa. That is an exemplification of what the corporation is doing as far as mainstreaming of sustainability and green aspects in housing is concerned.
And what does it mean to say that it's the first African housing project to be awarded a green certificate by the World Bank?
That is a huge achievement. It means that that building is well aligned to water and energy efficiencies. Operationalizing that building in terms of what we may call the life cycle costing of our houses or our units in Homa Bay, it means overall we are consuming less and less energy. It means we are mitigating the effects of climate action. So the other issue you asked about what we are doing about ICT, it's important to first indicate that His Excellency has guided all the government agencies must migrate on e-citizen. I want to tell the nation, at National Housing Corporation, all our 4 major services are fully migrated on e-citizen. So it is very easy for you to apply for a house online. It's very easy for you to make a payment. If you're paying your rents, if you're paying your tenant purchase, money towards the end of the month, all those processes have been made extremely efficient. Above that, National Housing Corporation is the first government agency to roll out on high scale the Building Information Management System. You asked what are we doing in as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. I want to state, in the UK, for example, no publicly funded project can be done outside Building Information Management System. Why is this very important for the corporation? Because we want to ensure that 3 major elements of our housing are achieved. Number 1, we want to assure the country of the quality of the housing development coming from NHC. Number 2, timely management of our projects. And it is evident, just last year on 13th of January, we took His Excellency the President to Homa Bay. We launched our Homa Bay project. As we speak now, we are finalizing, we are doing finishes. Go to Embu. We took His Excellency the President there on 26th of May last year. As we speak, we are already doing the civil works, the road works. The project is almost coming to an end. And that is a commitment we are giving, that as National Housing Corporation, by way of onboarding the Building Information Management System, we are able to manage our time. And lastly, the issue of cost escalation. It's a major issue. We have many projects maybe which were started and were never completed. Yeah. And the problem is project management. So having onboarded the BIM, which is our current practice, we acquired BIM last year.
What is BIM?
BIM is a system of design where the architect, the engineer, the quantity surveyor, the contractor, project managers, and those who will come to operationalize the facility are all well integrated. So they collaborate on the design process. You perhaps had, the Cabinet Secretary yesterday going around, of course, the exhibitions. There's a company here called HiCAD, which sold to us that particular technology. And you could hear them say their biggest client actually in Kenya is National Housing Corporation, because we believe that. Allow me to say, I was part of ICOS, the first ICOS in 2015. Obviously, before I crossed over to National Housing Corporation as the managing director, I was a pioneering staff of NCA. And it is during the first ICOS 2015 that we discussed BIM. And when I crossed over to the other side, I realized I had an opportunity now as an accounting officer to actually mainstream that very good research practice. That is why you see in the UK, projects are delivered on time. You find projects are delivered on quality. Projects are delivered within cost. And that is the practice we are currently having. If you look at Homa Bay, for example, if I just take one project, and we are in over 17 counties currently, we are finishing that project with very minimal cost variations. And that is going to be our practice as we move forward.
You are a quantity surveyor, and you're bringing in the concept of ensuring that projects are completed on time and within budget. How do you achieve this when the rate of inflation has become highly volatile? I mean, you're always in a swing kind of a mode. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. And so how do you manage to come up with projects that are completed on time and on budget?
Yeah, a very relevant question. Obviously, we exist in a very, there's always economic turmoil. One day the exchange rates are quite high. The other day there's a shortage of construction materials because of certain things happening globally. But what I want to indicate, when we are designing our projects, for example, currently our projects are 52 weeks. That is to say, 52 weeks. And we have a provision in our contracts that for a project of 52 weeks, the contractor ought to have, the contractor ought to have properly predicted the possible economic changes and factored them in their pricing. This is something that is taught in school. Of course, quantity surveyors are also building economists. And that is one parameter that you are taught, that as much as you are pricing, you don't just price with the prices of today. You must also do some bit of prediction. And that is why research is also very important, because when you simulate your costs as a contractor and you have very good data, it can predict where you are likely to be in terms of your pricing 5 months or 6 months from today. Yes.
You talked about your presence in the country. Yes. You have projects in Nyeri, you have projects in Nairobi, in Mombasa, in Homa Bay, in Kisumu. How many units do you have so far in your stable?
We have, allow me to say, we have projects across the 17, currently about 17 counties. And in this year's procurement plan, we intend to be in all the rest of the counties. I would estimate, we do it grossly together with the State Department, because there's no NHC and the State Department. We are all one. At the end of the day, we are all contributing towards the same agenda. Yeah. Our intention and what we are rolling out, we are building towards 110,000 housing units by 2027. So every contribution we are doing today, 3 years from today. And as I started by saying, the corporation intends to do at least 10% of what His Excellency the President has committed to do.
It's about 100,000 units?
110 actually, to be precise. Yeah, units. To be precise, yeah.
And you're talking about 3 years from now?
Yes.
And so you're talking about bringing on board about more than 30,000
housing units every
year.
Yes.
Is that achievable?
Yeah, it is achievable. It depends on how innovative, of course, the corporation becomes. And I can say honestly, we have been very innovative in the last few months or few years. We have what is called the Innovative Financing Committee of the corporation. Because the greatest challenge, of course, comes with cost when it comes to funding of infrastructure projects. Through this particular committee, the corporation has been coming up with very innovative ways of funding our projects. That is to say, obviously, NHC is named as an implementing agency of affordable housing under the Affordable Housing Act of 2024. But all that collection may not actually be adequate to actualize the dream of the president, that is 1 million housing units. And that is why, as NHC, we have also given ourselves an opportunity within the law that we can be as innovative as possible. For example, we have a public-private partnership program. Currently, the corporation has been advised. We have been working with IFC. We are just done in terms of tender documentation. We have 3,500 units coming up under PPP, and through an open tender, where we'll be floating a bid for a PPP contractor to come on board to do about 3,500 units. The corporation has moved also to develop a D-rate so that we are able to attract the monies in the private sector. We have been working very closely with the Capital Markets Authority. We are working very closely with the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and that is also a mechanism to ensure that we do proper fundraising and mobilization of resources towards actualization of these particular initiatives. So we have also invited banks to take over most of our TPSs. For example, KMRC has a lot of funds where investors in KMRC, banks, they have money being shareholders. Then NHC is giving out TPSs at 13%. We are in very high level, or quite advanced stage of negotiating with banks. Why don't we then offload all our TPSs book to the banks so that Kenyans are able to access the between 9 and 9.5% interest rate, which actually the president calls a single digit, come out of the 13% by NHC. We receive our money in advance. We start implementing new projects as our customers are also enjoying lower rates. And this will be for a longer duration. NHC gives you up to 18 years. The rates coming from the bank will be between 20 to 25 years tenor. So we believe we are giving a value proposition, and all these initiatives obviously will culminate into us being able to do around 30,000 housing units every year.
You have such a heavy responsibility of ensuring that Kenyans have decent homes, have affordable homes, and they live in a sustainably well-structured environment. How do you manage to achieve this?
So I will start from the onset by indicating NHC currently has a very robust strategic plan, 2023-2027. And this strategic plan is well aligned with the national goals as given out or spelled out by His Excellency the President under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. So under the agenda, obviously, the issue of housing is critical. And therefore, NHC, enabled by the Act, Cap 117, we have put in place strategies that will allow us to contribute the 110,000 units. I think I mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
Which is slightly above the 10% of what the government intends to achieve by the year 2027. NHC is an infrastructure agency. We have a very well-designed organizational structures that allows us to onboard very competent talents which are technical in nature. I have several architects and a cadre for architects. I have a career progression for engineers in all the major disciplines of engineering. I have civil engineers, we have electrical engineers, we have mechanical engineers. We also have recently to ensure that the houses that we are building are not just, walls. We want to do sustainable, well-landscaped kind of development. We have now started onboarding and designed a structure that allows us to onboard interior designers. So the corporation is now hiring interior designers. We are hiring landscape architects, and we are also hiring physical planners. Physical planners, for example, is very important because NHC has existed for 70 years. Majority of our existing estates, they are in a state where they need to possibly be brought down and new developments to be initiated. And therefore, the whole issue of replanning and urban renewal of our existing estates is very critical. And that's why we are now onboarding physical planners. NHC has quantity surveyors, very well trained to do procurement of works to ensure that there is effective cost management. The strategy also allows us to be able to mobilize funds, as I had earlier mentioned. It's important to indicate that in the last 2 years, the corporation has been profitable. Profitable because it's a commercial parastatal. I think starting from the financial year 2022-2023, 2023-2024, our profitability has been on the rise. Currently, we are doing 4 times better than we did in the financial year 2021-2022. That is important because capital mobilization or resource mobilization is also critical for the corporation in as far as implementation of affordable housing is actually concerned. So yes, so there are many strategies, there are many things we are doing. We have onboarded technology. I said we are doing BIM. We have moved into the sustainability space. We have trained over 50 of our staff with World Bank IFC to just align ourselves to sustainability issues, as required under the Sustainable Development Goals. We know climate action is a major issue. So we are trying to drive both, the economic, social prosperity of Kenyans through housing, but on top of that, ensuring that we introduce a third angle, which is sustainable housing, on top, of course, of the houses being economical and, of course, elevating Kenyans in terms of social prosperity.
Some of your estates, were constructed in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s. when the concept of an environment, was not very common. Are you looking at a model of gentrification, whereby you bring down the old structures, you repurpose them, or you retrofit them, and then you come up with modern buildings?
Yes, that is already happening. We are doing that, and possibly before I even mention that, it's also important to know that National Housing Corporation has, over and above, of course, the existing estates, we have land across the country. I think almost everywhere in this country, there is an estate or a piece of land belonging to National Housing Corporation. So in terms of land availability, I believe we have quite a bit of it, which we have used especially to do our initial portfolio, which was commercial. Because it's important to indicate to Kenyans, NHC, as much as we are also implementing affordable housing, we have existed, and by law, we are a commercial parastatal, which means we are also providing homes to those who are slightly above the low income. So we are focusing also on the middle income and upper middle income earners in the country. And these are the people who are going to benefit from this much land that we have, where we can develop houses. We mark them up a bit, not really at the same market rate like the private sector, but something that allows us to make something from those development and cross-subsidize where we have zero-rated land. We have a lot of land we are currently getting from the county government, which is zero-rated, and this is where whatever we will be getting from the fund will be helping us to put up development in this zero-rated land. And when the land is zero-rated, we are also bringing in money from our commercial units to cross-subsidize for those who cannot afford the market-driven houses. So that is a strategy that we have. But then, coming to your question, yes, for example, here in Changamwe, we have a vast land, close to 50 acres of land. We have only about 1,000 bungalows and some mansions. These have existed from 1970 and 80s. We are slowly knocking them down, putting up newer units, and we are able to move those who are already in the units that we are knocking down to the newer units. So basically that is the strategy that we have, and eventually we don't want to have anyone who has been in our estate being moved out of our estate. We want to ensure that everyone who has been part of us is the first beneficiary of all the projects that we are doing. Yeah, that we are doing. Yes.
I mean, you have three target markets. You have the affordable housing market.
Yes.
You have the commercial market.
Yes.
And you're also getting into student accommodation.
Yes.
How is your mix? And how do you decide this is for students, this is for commercial, and this is for affordable housing?
Very good. I think all of it, student accommodation is institutional housing, and in the new Affordable Housing Act, institutional housing is actually provided for. And therefore, the corporation, based on our many years of experience, we are best positioned to actually drive what you may call institutional housing, especially students accommodation. Now, our mix is very well laid out in our strategic plan. We have about 110,000 housing units. We have the initial 100,000 being aligned to the new policy, where we are doing social housing at 50%, we'll do affordable housing at 30%, and 20% at market rate. Then at the same rate, we have the balance of 10,000, which is now focusing on institutional housing. So, and we're already working with a lot of universities. A lot of universities have shown interest. We're already working with Machakos University. And so if we get the relevant approvals, we shall be moving into providing students accommodation. It is important to note the private sector, for example, has really moved into this space, and they are doing very well. And NHC, I think, from the government side, we are very best positioned to support the higher education institutions in terms of students accommodation. You know, also universities are parastatals. So government to government, we would work very well, provide, of course, they would provide land, then the corporation can bring in the other resources, including technical, and then we can at least uplift the way of life of the Kenyan students at universities.
Very good. Look, when you go through your strategic plan, I mean, you're talking about putting up 110,000 units in the period of the strategic plan, which is 3 years from now up to 2027. And you are targeting to spend about 363
A billion, yes.
billion shillings, which translates to almost more than 100 billion shillings every year. Looking at your current revenue streams and future projections, how are you going to meet that demand?
Yeah, and that is why it's a strategy, because formulation of a strategy is critical, and its implementation to a great extent will depend on the culture of the organization. It will depend on the resources that you're able to mobilize, and the structure. We have managed to a great extent to work on our culture. As you may know, the corporation currently is very much gearing and rearing to actually implement affordable housing. So our culture is aligned. Number two, our structures are in place. We just received a new approved HR structure that allows the corporation to be able to implement this strategy. Now, when it comes to resources, the corporation will leverage a lot on its commercial acumen. We are established as a commercial parastatal. That means the managers and working with the board, management working with the board, we must be very innovative so that we can augment what we can receive from what the Kenyans are contributing. Because we'll receive a part of the allocation, but that may not be adequate to do the 110,000, because we are not the only ones who will be implementing affordable housing projects. So ours is a party 110,000 that you are saying will cost around 353 billion. That is why innovative mechanisms of fundraising, entering into MOUs so that we can immediately release the land. We know much of the cost of housing is actually in land. So by county governments, and in fact, even members of parliament have been assisting us to come on board, and they facilitate provision of land to the corporation. We are cutting that budget by a very big extent. Because when we talk of 353, we must ask ourselves, how is it built up? There's a cost for land, there's cost for labor, there's cost for materials, there's cost for technical services. Because we are a national housing corporation, we will also be able to cut on the cost of technical services, because we have employed a very robust technical team. We have QSs, we have engineers, we have architects, we have landscape architects, we have interior designers. So we will also be able, working of course with the other consultants in the market, be in a position to reduce a bit the cost of technical services or professional services going into this 353 billion. We, as I said, we are utilizing available legal frameworks like the PPP Act. As I indicated earlier, the corporation is already at the tail end of formulating a very competitive, PPP development at our Stony Athi, where we are doing 3,500 units, social affordable housing and market-driven houses. And we have other initiatives, as I talked about. We are doing a D-rate. For the first time, the corporation want to go to the market and try to raise capital through the Nairobi Securities Exchange.
When do you plan to do this?
We are currently at an advanced stage of designing the product. So I believe it may not take very long. Of course, we know Capital Markets Authority is a very efficient institution. We know NSC is equally a very efficient institution. Currently, the corporation is doing a lot. It's efficient. Everyone can see. Maybe it indicates why the CEO of National Housing Corporation had to be rated the overall young business leader of Africa just the other day. So there's a lot we are doing. I believe we are efficient enough to finalize this process maybe in the next 1 or 2 months.
And how much are you looking at raising from the market?
We can raise as much as the 353 billion. It's what is available because we have a target. So the much we can raise, the better.
Well, QS David Mathu, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Inside Government and for sharing your insight with us. Your time is highly appreciated. Well, we have been talking matters affordable housing with National Housing Corporation Managing Director QS David Mathu. And of course, he has shared with us the journey of NHC, what they plan to achieve in the next couple of years. My name is O'Brien Kimani. You have been watching Inside Government. Thank you for your time. Have a good afternoon.